Welcome to Resilience and Resolve with Lance Drury.
Welcome to Resilience and Resolve with attorney Lance Drury. For decades, Lance has fought for taxpayers against the IRS, and he's built a law firm that runs on teamwork. I'm Leanne Lyon, and today's episode is about delegation. Many lawyers want to control every detail, but growth only happens when you learn to trust others. Lance will share how he learned to let go of tasks that didn't need his attention and why that decision made his practice stronger. Lance, do you remember the first time you handed off an important task to somebody in your firm?
Well, I don't know that I remember the first time that I sent an important task to somebody else in my firm. You can tell by looking at me, I've been around quite a while. And so, that's so long ago, I don't know. But I have to tell you that, that's the problem with attorneys. They've got to think like entrepreneurs if they want to grow the business. And the first thing you have to do is give up control. Now, the women in my office will tell you I have no problem with delegation. It's one of the best things that I do because I told them the other day, and it's the truth. I should not be handling any task in this law office that somebody else can do as well as I. And so, one of the things that I've learned, and one of the hardest things was I used to do all the initial consultations, but it got to be so much, and I was doing so much more to grow the firm. And I now have 5 offices that I gave up all the consultations where the tax liability was under $50,000. So that saved me a lot of time. It cut my initial consults down to half. So, it's something you have to do, but you have to remember that I no longer consider myself an attorney. I'm an entrepreneur that provides legal services and helping people get agreements with the IRS. And you have to think that way because if you just try to do this on your own, you're not going to have as big an impact. And so you have to trust people. We monitor the cases all the time. This morning, I went through about 30 cases with one of my attorneys in the state of Florida. And so that's how I keep up on it. Plus, we have a centralized case system that I can go into anytime, see the status of the case. And then if I see that maybe perhaps nothing's been done on that case for a while, I can then question the lawyers as to what's going on. A lot of times we're waiting on the IRS. The IRS is so screwed up, and I've never seen the IRS as bad as they are now. They don't have enough people working for them. Now with the government shutdown, about half the people in the IRS are furloughed. And so it's even worse now. So, a lot of times we're either waiting on our clients to get us information or we're waiting for the IRS to get back to us.
Wow, you have raised some really great questions. Would you say that that was the hardest work for you to delegate in the beginning, or in the beginning, was it something else?
Well, I don't really know what was the hardest to begin with. For one time, I can still remember that I was there by myself. I had hired legal assistants. They just didn't seem to work out. And I can remember I was doing 3 things at once. I was at the copier, I was on the phone, I was writing stuff down. And I can remember this one guy told me, he said, "Counselor, use your MBA and hire a legal assistant." And I finally did. And it was very hard for me to do that. It was a woman who worked for me years ago when I ran 8 public defender offices for the state. And I thought, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make ends meet? And about 4 in the morning, I texted her, says, "I can't do this right now." And now I'm dealing in hundreds of thousands of dollars in expenses each month. And it doesn't bother me near as much, because I've learned to live with it. And, right, this month is tough. Last month was tough, but we had record revenue months with the IRS in June and August. And so the more you do of this, the more you get used to it. You have to take calculated risk. I know that in the long run, it's going to be great, which is why we just expanded into Houston, Texas, and we hope to go into Miami, Florida next, and then Los Angeles, California. Because, Leanne, I'm in the prime of my life. I got to keep growing the business.
You bet. You bet. So, how did you build confidence eventually that your team could handle those critical client matters without you reviewing every detail?
Well, I think you have to do it because if you review every single detail, like I said earlier, you're not going to grow the firm. And, I've had very competent people. I have better practitioners now than I've ever had. And so, you just have to have a lot of faith in the people that you hire, but you got to make sure you still monitor the cases. And I still give advice from time to time on what should be done in a particular case. And so you just have to do it. You have to take that leap of faith. And then the longer you do it, the easier it becomes because it's all going to work out in the long run.
True that for sure. Hey, can you share a time when delegation paid off in a way that you didn't expect?
Well, I don't know offhand what that would be. That's kind of tough for me to tell you about that. I basically, she's going to retire in the spring, but Donna was with
Mhm.
me when I was running 8 public defender offices. She's in charge now. So there's a lot of things concerning the operations of the office that I don't know about. And I don't want to know. I don't want to spend my time doing things that somebody else can do as well as I am. I'm 72 years old and I want to keep growing the business. And we're not going to be able to do that if I'm in the minutiae of all the stuff that's going on here. So you have to have faith in people. You have to hire good people and just let them do their stuff. And they have a lot of suggestions. They come to me and I accept them because they're the ones that are dealing with us on a day-to-day basis, particularly the legal assistants. And I don't, want to get involved with that. And, they know what's best because they do it every single day. I don't. So, it just makes common sense for me to, let them do it. Plus, then they own it. Then they're more likely to succeed because now they feel like they have an ownership part in the business because they're actually being able to change things to accommodate them, and so then they're more likely to be successful at what they're doing.
Yeah, well, and one thing that's true with employees and people who work for you is that they usually don't last forever. So transitioning, and I think that can stop people from wanting to hire people. Well, they're just going to leave. How do you handle knowing that when they do transition and you have to bring in somebody new? How do you have confidence in the new person?
Well, the one thing is here, I live in a small town, so my legal assistants know a lot of these people. They all have a veto over who I hire because, of course, we want everybody to get along. But they know these other women in the community much better than I do, and I trust their judgment.
Mhm.
And so, I've been. This is hard to believe, but two of my legal assistants here retired here. I have two people that have been here more than 10 years. I have another woman who's been here more than 5 years. So, unless they're not doing their job, they generally stay for the long term. And that's because there's a couple things. We're very family oriented. If they got a volleyball game or a basketball game, well, Valley High School, the Catholic school here, is right up the street. She can go watch her take off early. She'll make up for it and see her daughter play volleyball. But the other thing is, we have all the benefits of a large corporation without all the regulation that comes from that. All of that. I'm not a stickler for all that. But they have flex time. They're all given flex time. They have health insurance that's paid. They have a life insurance policy. Sick leave, all of that. They get their vacation. So I have people that work remotely, and I have to tell you, I was against remote work for the longest time. My best lawyers now are working remotely. Two of them worked in LA and now they moved to San Antonio to run that office. And then they opened up the Houston office. They spent the entire Columbus Day weekend checking out about 20 offices in Houston. And it's probably the nicest looking office that we have, but it's going to be a virtual office. That's something else that I've changed. It's not going to be brick and mortars anymore. They're expensive in Nashville. $7,000 a month for the lease. By the time you pay for the employees' parking and the utilities, you're spending over $100,000 a year. So the next offices are going to be low maintenance, probably 10 to 15,000 overhead compared to what I have now, which is a lot more than that. And you don't have to bring in as much revenue, and your profit margin will be higher. So that's how we're going to move forward with the plan. And it's an exciting time. I still have my purpose. I still have that drive. I still have a reason to get up in the morning, and because we want to help as many people as possible.
I love that. And, I love, the corporate culture that you're describing is so important. People need that freedom, that flexibility, and, still providing great service to you. And they will when they want to stay there for the long term because of everything that you're doing to make them comfortable, happy, while still staying productive. That's amazing. I love it.
I have a friend of mine that works at a restaurant a half hour north of here that I go to frequently. And he used to work in the corporate area. He's like 45 years old. And now he's just being a waiter and being a bartender at this restaurant. He told me the other day he will never go back to the corporate culture. He was done with it. He didn't like it at all. And he's got the means in order to do that. So he says, I'll never go back. I just can't take it anymore. So, there's a lot of people like that. I get it. So, we have a small town firm and there's a lot of flexibility here, but at the same time, they're treated with the benefits like a big corporation.
That's just beautiful. Love it. Well, for the solo or small firm lawyers that are listening, what is the first thing that they should consider handing off?
Well, I think it's the operations of the company. Because if you're a small town lawyer, you're the only lawyer there. You want to focus on the legal stuff. So you want to hire somebody as a legal assistant who is a go-getter, who has a lot of, a lot of initiative. They're a self-starter, and they can do all that because you don't want all that draining your time. It's bad enough having to be a lawyer. And the reason I changed this was being a small town lawyer is not very lucrative. And, you do these family law cases. Guess what? They call you 5 o'clock every Friday night because the other spouse didn't bring the kids for their visitation. They don't care if they call you at midnight. I got rid of giving my phone number out because of that. And so, I finally just said, what am I going to do? So I'm in the office late one night. This guy comes with this offer for tax resolution. I bought the books. Then I went to a seminar. Then I joined his group in Colorado. And then I figured I can do this myself. So I came in the office one day and I told my two legal assistants at the time, now we have 16 people. I told them, I said, we're going to be in St. Louis in 30 days and I'm going on the radio. And that's the best move I ever made. Every time I've done this, and I'm in a big growth group now on how to grow the firm. And I've had to give up some things because of my time constraints, because we had meetings early in the morning and at night. And so, it's you just have to do it, and then you'll find a way to get through it. You're going to go, oh, how am I going to do all this? Well, like I said earlier, now I no longer do the initial consults. If the clients owe less than $50,000 to the IRS, I have 5 other attorneys that can do that.
Wow. Well, and that brings us to my final question for today. Looking at your firm today, how has effective delegation shaped the way that your practice operates?
Well, we can operate on a much larger scale. We have more than 1,000 clients at any one time in this firm, spread across Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas. And we get people from all over because they go through St. Louis or they go through Nashville. They hear my commercial on the radio, or they hear from some guy by word of mouth. I got a client now in Yonkers, New York. Some guy told him to hire me that I had represented years ago. And so, the word of mouth is really the best because people are sold on you before they ever call you. So, I think that it's helping us grow this practice to go nationwide. and be a nationwide CEO for tax resolution. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do. And I just love the trip. I love the journey. It's just remarkable that at my age, I still have the stamina to do all this and to want to help all these people.
It's a blessing to all those people as well. Well, thank you, Lance. This has been a wonderful show. Thanks for listening to Resilience and Resolve with Lance Drury. For more resources or to connect with Lance directly, visit lancedrurylaw.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with another attorney who's working to build a stronger team. Thank you, Lance.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.